So when I first start creating a fragrance, it's a whole long journey. But it starts out with that inspiration. Something will stop me dead in my tracks. So I start to piece together this piece of poetry, this piece of music. I feel the beat. I feel the message of the fragrance. And then I start piecing together. And then I look down my big telescope in the fragrance. Rather like, you know, when you were a child and you had a kaleidoscope and you would look down and you would move the thing and all the pieces would jumble around. That's what I do. I look down my telescope and I look at all the pieces. And then I look for the holes in the fragrance. And then I think, it needs something there. It needs something there. It needs something there. What is it that it needs? And that's when the part of Joe really comes to the surface. And then I start to fill those holes. And then I smell. And I take it, and then I smell, and I do that for days and days and days. And when I get to the point where I get to the 14, 21, 30 days, and I smell the paper and I see no more holes, I know it's ready. I think one of the things that people recognize most about me when I'm creating fragrance, what is the signature of Joe? And I always start, when I'm first creating a fragrance, one of the things I'm known for is that platform of wood that everything sits on. So that is often, I will know the big picture, where I want to be, but I start with the platform of wonderful woody notes so that everything can be held in place. So when we create a fragrance, you'll often hear the expression, a pyramid, a fragrance pyramid. And they're often used for training purposes. And that pyramid, if you break that pyramid into 3 sections, you have top notes, middle notes, and bottom notes. The top notes are giving you the first effect. So when you spray a fragrance onto your skin, the first thing you smell are those top notes. And they often disappear sort of quite quickly, but they really give that lasting impression. Then you get what we call the heart of the fragrance, the bit that beats, the bit that as the fragrance dries down, you start to smell those wonderful creative notes. But what will hold a fragrance on your skin is those base woody notes. So what I do is I take that little platform at the bottom and I place it through each part of the fragrance. So for instance, one thing that I'm noted for is citrus notes. People know I create really clean, crisp citrus notes. But in order to hold that grapefruit or that bergamot or that wonderful lime, I've got little platforms of wood all the way through that pyramid so that you can feel the citrus. So something like Joe by Joe Loves, you can feel that citrus or the spine of citrus all the way through that fragrance. And I think that's what people recognize as my signature. Every perfumer I know, whenever they start to create a fragrance, they're looking to create a masterpiece. That's what we all want to do. We want to change the world. We want to find a note that no one has used before. Or we want to create, certain parts of the world, you will find notes that people love. Like, for instance, if we are in the Far East, it's those wonderful clean citrus notes and those light florals. If you move to the Middle East, it's those deep, rich, with the deep voice and those wonderful ouds and spices and things that linger. Europe is much more, the blossoms, but again, the cleanness. And we can see that each generation comes along and each generation is asking perfumers to create in different ways. And so it's an incredibly exciting time. So there was this incredible man called Roman Kaiser, and he is like an adventurer. And he goes around the world and he finds fragrant notes that we've never smelt before, from leaves to blossom, and he finds them in extraordinary places. And then takes the flower, puts a glass dome on top of it, and then takes all the fragrant note chemically and then looks at it on a graph. And all of us as perfumers and creators, we long to use those notes. Why? Because they're natural. Nature knows the best dose always, but they're often notes that you've never smelt before. So it might be a beautiful white, like tuberose blossom that has a really heady, but might have a mocha coffee note to it. Or it might be a beautiful green leaf that smells of blackcurrants. So it's all this wonderful kind of meze and mingling of different notes. And that often is what creates masterpieces, by finding those pieces, putting them into either unconventional formulas or conventional formulas, but finding a way of bringing them to the market and making them really memorable.